श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि। कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम्। Srimad Ramayanam is one among the two itihasas in Sanatana Dharma. It tells us the story of the avataram of the Lord Shriyavpati Sriman Narayana as Sri Rama. As much as we give importance to Sri Rama, we must also understand the role played by the other characters in Ramayana, particularly his brothers Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. Of course, we all know about Sri Lakshmana, who was an incarnation of Adisesha. He was there to serve his brother Sri Rama and his sister-in-law Sita Pirati in the forest for 14 years. He said, Aham sarvam karishyami jagrataha swapadaschate. However, one important character among Rama's brothers whom we do not take much cognizance of is Bharata. If you take a dance program, for example, you will see a lot of artists on stage, such as dancers, musicians. But you also have the crew, you have technicians and volunteers who work behind the scenes, but we hardly see them. Lakshmana was like the cast. He was on stage and everyone could see him and appreciate him. Bharata was the crew. He was there behind the scenes and not many people were appreciative of him. So, in this episode, let us look at the greatness of Bharata. Valmiki in his Ramayanam, as well as Kambar in his Ramayanam in Tamil, talk about the fact that the four brothers Ramastvam, Lakshmanena, Swayamatha, Bharatena api Shatrughna namna, as Narayana Bhattatri puts it, the four brothers grew up in Saubhratritvam. They had a good relationship, good brotherhood amongst each other. Rama and Bharata were identical. Both of them were dark-hued, whereas Lakshmana and Shatrughna were identical. Both of them were light-hued. Now, they grew up with loving each other and bonded extremely well. Everything in the Ramayana goes smoothly until the Ayodhya Kandam. After 12 years of the four brothers living happily with their wives, Bharata visits the house of his maternal uncle in Kekaya Desham, which is supposedly present-day Afghanistan. Kekaya Desham in those days was well known for horses. So Ashwa becomes Afka, which becomes Afgha. And that's how the place gets its name as Afghanistan. So the king of Kekaya Desham was Ashwapati Maharaja. And his son was Yuddhajit. So Bharata went to visit Kekaya Desham along with Shatrughna. At this time, Dasaratha has a little bit of free time and notices that his hair is getting white. And he realizes that it is enough time that he has ruled Ayodhya and it is time to find a heir apparent. That is when he decides to have Rama, the eldest of his sons, to be the heir apparent. He asks his subjects and consults them whether they are okay with the decision. Rama, however, has a slight concern. He wants to know why the Pattabhishekam for him as the Yuvaraja should happen all of a sudden and why can't they wait till Bharata returns from the home of his maternal uncle. For this, we need to understand a short flashback. When Dasaratha married Kaikeyi, he had to make a promise to Kaikeyi's mother that the son born to him and Kaikeyi will become the king of Ayodhya. So Dasaratha was in a dharma-sankata. He was in two moods, or he had a choice to make, a conflict. On one hand, he had to abide by the Shastra, which says that the eldest son should become the king. On the other hand, he has made this promise to Kaikeyi's mother that her son will become the king. That is why he wants to get done with Rama's yuvaraja-pattabhishekam before Bharata gets to know that Dasaratha made the promise that he would become the Yuvaraja. And so Dasaratha decides to go ahead with the Pattabhishekam because it was not necessary in those days to fulfill promises that you make in order to marry somebody. At this time, Mathara from Kekaya Desham, who was Kaikeyi's nanny, she is called Kuni in Tamil. She comes and notices Kaikeyi being extremely elated at the news that Rama is going to be the next king of Ayodhya. Mathara chides and admonishes Kaikeyi and warns her of what is going to befall on her in the years to come. Kaikeyi loved Rama as much as she loved Bharata. But such a Kaikeyi was manipulated in just 1.5 hours by Mathara. So you can imagine the kind of psychological tricks that Mathara used. Kaikeyi then went to Dasaratha and redeemed the 2 boons that he had promised her and said, by one boon, my son Bharata should be the king. And by the second boon, Rama should go to the forest for 14 years. Why did Kaikeyi make Rama to go to the forest for 14 years? This is because in Vanavasam, you should lead a life as a tapasvi. You cannot engage in any physical relationship. So Rama and Sita in that 14 years period would not be able to have children. However, in that time, Bharata would have children and they would be entitled to the throne after him. So Dasaratha is overcome with a lot of disgust towards Kaikeyi, and he feels extremely sad for having to let Rama go to the forest. But he has to make those boons because Kaikeyi manipulated him into granting those boons to him. Eventually, Rama at once obeyed his father's instructions and went to the forest along with Sita and Lakshmana. Eventually, Dasaratha could not bear the putra shoka, the separation from his son, and narrating the incident that happened to him in the forest, encountering a small child who was serving as a dutiful son to his blind parents, his Atma departed from his Shariram. Meanwhile, Bharata was in Kekaya Desham. And the ministers had to go to Kekaya to call Bharata. Bharata was summoned to Ayodhya and he notices earlier the people in Ayodhya would welcome him wholeheartedly. But this time, the people of Ayodhya are looking at him with disgust. Bharata wonders what's happening. And then he goes and sees Kaikeyi dressed in white sari. He asks, Mother, what has happened? Where is my father? Where is my brother? Kaikeyi says, your father has gone to the abode where all of us are going to go one fine day. Your brother is in the forest. Why is my brother Rama in the forest? It is so that you can be the king. I got the kingdom specially for you, my son. What would we have done if we were in Bharata's place? We would have been so happy. But here Bharata was filled with anger. He was like, I am ashamed to call you my mother, to call you as my mother. You are an extremely self-centered and prestige-conscious woman. Bharata then rushed to the Antavpuram, the chamber of Rama Mata Kausalya. He craves for her compassion, but Kausalya says, "Do not act as though you do not know the drama that your mother created." This is an important juncture in the Ramayana, which tells us about the ill effects of hero worship. Hero worship is not something that we see only today in the cinema industry and in the political industry. There have been hints of it even in Treta Yugam. All the people in Ayodhya loved Rama so much. There's nothing wrong with it. But their excess love for Rama, blinded them from looking at the goodness in Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. We will see more instances of the fallout of hero worship as we go ahead. So Bharata is extremely furious when he hears these words from Kausalya, and he says, "If at all I ever fancied the throne that belongs to my brother Rama, may I be the recipient of the 46 different types of narakas that would ensue from 46 different types of papams." And he goes on to give a laundry list of these papams. Bharata then goes to Vasishta, craving for mercy from him as well. But Vasishta says, "Okay, Bharata, shall we fix the date for your pattabhishekam?" Bharata is extremely distraught that his Acharya, who has taught him Dhanurveda and Shastras, is misunderstanding him. Bharata immediately takes the battalion and proceeds towards Chitrakoota, where Rama, Sita and Lakshmana are residing temporarily, to bring him back to Ayodhya. In order to go to Chitrakoota, the trio must cross the river Ganga. And as we all know, on the banks of the river Ganga was Guha, who was the chief of the tribals there. Guha looks at Bharata coming along with the army. He thinks that this Bharata is coming to kill Rama. What an idiot. And he goes on to make a valiant speech. He says, according to the words of Kambar, "All of them there are the rats. I am the snake," he says. Now on the other side, as Bharata approaches, he notices Guha on the other side. He asks Sumantra, "Who is this?" Sumantra proceeds to give an introduction to Guha. "Gangai irukkarayudayan, kanakkiranda navayan, ungal kulattani nadarku uyir tunaivan." He owns the land on either side of river Ganga. He owns numerous boats. He is very dear to Lord Rama, who was born in your family. Bharata then says, "Guha, sir, please let me go. I have come to give my Rama 2 things that he forgot when he went to the forest." Guha asks, "What are those 2 things?" "One is me and the other is the kingdom of Ayodhya." Guha then realizes that he was also in the list of people who misunderstood Bharata all this while. And then he says, "I have realized, Bharata, that even if you take 1,000 Ramas, it will not equal one Bharata. Airam Ramar ninkil avaro theriyanamma," he says. Bharata crosses the river Ganga and reaches Chitrakoota. Lakshmana climbs up a tree and looks at the army coming, and he tells, "Rama, Sita, both of you go and hide." Rama asks, "What has happened? Why are you asking me to go and hide?" Lakshmana says, "See that Bharata is coming to kill you." Rama says, "Lakshmana, don't you dare speak another word about Bharata." Bharata came with tears in his eyes and fell at the feet of Rama. Rama embraced Bharata and gave him a kiss on his forehead. Why? Because Vedas ordain that a father must kiss the child, the daughter or the son, on the forehead. In the absence of Dasaratha, Rama, being the eldest brother, is in the position of the father, and so he gives a kiss on Bharata's forehead just like a father. Bharata then talks about all the events that happened in Ayodhya, including the death of Dasaratha, and Rama is extremely upset. Bharata says, "Rama, you must come back to Ayodhya." Rama says, "No, I cannot come back to Ayodhya. I have to fulfill the promise that I made to my father." Despite a lot of requests from Bharata, Rama was not willing to come back to Ayodhya. That is when Rama asked Lakshmana to bring something. Everyone's eyes went towards Lakshmana. What is Lakshmana bringing? He brought a set of Padukas. Rama stepped onto the Padukas and gave these Padukas to Bharata. Bharata reverentially accepted these Padukas. Bharata went back and installed the Padukas on the Simhasana, and he lived in Nandigrama on the outskirts of Ayodhya like an ascetic. He wanted to live in a state of tapas, similar to his brother. This incident, called Yuvaraja-pattabhishekam, was an inspiration to the polymath of the 13th century, Swami Vedanta Deshika, who wrote 1008 verses on the holy sandals or Padukas of the Lord. He opens this work by paying his salutations to Bharata, because it is through Bharata that we know the greatness of the Padukas. Bharataya param namostu tasmai prathamodaharanaya bhakti bhajam yadupajnamaseshataf prithivyam prathito raghava paduka prabhavaha. So we have seen the greatness of Bharata. Valmiki says Bharata was given the name so because of Rajya Bharanam. Indeed, Bharata did bear the brunt of a mistake that he was not directly involved in. When Shatrughna dragged Mathara and claimed her to be the reason for all the drama that happened, Bharata said, "No, it is not her fault." He said, "It is not Dasaratha's, it's not Kaikeyi's fault either, it is not Dasaratha's fault either. It is not Rama's fault either. It is my fault. Somebody called Bharata was born, and hence all these things happened." Nanedan aiduga. This word from Andal's Tiruppavai has been revered so much by our Purvacharyas. And it highlights the hallmark of a Vaishnava to accept the fault for matters that he or she was not directly involved in. Not for anything else but to bring peace and to sort out the situation. And so Bharata indeed bore the brunt of a mistake that was not his. He showed us what it is like to be a recipient of the ill effects of hero worship and why hero worship is not healthy in any society. In Kerala, there are a set of 4 temples called the Nalambalam, And these temples are visited by the devotees during the Ramayana Masam, which falls between mid-July and mid-August. These temples are Triprayar, which is for Sri Rama, Tirumuzhikalam, which is for Sri Lakshmana, Irinyalakuda or Kudal Manikyam, which is for Bharata, and Payammal, which is for Shatrughna. Bharata in Irinyalakuda is in a state of tapas. The decorum in the temple involves maintaining complete silence. And instead of payasam given as prasadam in the temple, brinjal, which is cooked and mashed, is given, because Bharata here is in a state of penance, doing prayaschittam because he thought that he was in some way responsible for his brother going to the forest. So this is the greatness of Bharata in Srimad Ramayanam, and hopefully this will open your eyes to the greatness of Rama's brothers as well. Because in Sanatana Dharma, it is not just Bhagavan whom we should honor and respect, but also his devotees. Namaskaram Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.